9 veterans were honored in Southport today ahead of a burial at sea at the nation's only Veterans Memorial Reef off the coast of southeastern North Carolina. WECT's Mackenzie Bruns was at the ceremony today, and she tells us how these veterans will continue to serve, but in a different way.
9 veterans and 3 of their spouses are honored with a sound that recognizes the lives they lived and the time they served. For Rhonda Raridan, it's her father, Fred Wilson Evans, and her mother, Ruth.
My father was a character, and my mother put up with him all these years.
We have the President of the United States.
Each veteran is honored with full military recognition, and their remains are placed into memorial markers.
It is where we can have the individual veteran and spouse, if they'd like, be interred into the marker and then placed out at sea to a reef we have off the coast of Wilmington.
Thomas Marcinowski, the founder and president of Veterans Memorial Reef, the nonprofit behind it all, says the program started in response to a growing shortage of space in military cemeteries and the rising cost of funerals.
This is a way of having them honored in the sea, but continuing what I did when I raised my hand for the service. We will now enter these veterans to that reef where they'll be laid and continue to serve.
Continuing to serve, but this time the environment. The markers are made from eco-friendly cement, designed to become part of the reef, supporting marine life and helping to protect the coastline. For Raridan, it's a chance to watch her parents' legacy continue to thrive.
Everything was perfect. I said a prayer last night. God, please give me comfort, strength, guide us through this.
Her parents were married for more than 60 years, and now their love will continue to sail, but this time through the waves of the ocean.
On Monday, those markers will be taken offshore and laid to rest on the Veterans Memorial Reef off the coast of Wrightsville Beach and Carolina Beach.